It's fucking hot as fuck in my spot. Okay, here we go. Season finale of The Sympathizer, episode 7. This one is titled, what I think it's like endings or some shit. Ending.
Endings are hard, aren't they?
Yes, yes. Endings are hard, aren't they? So, lots to discuss in this episode. We need no introduction if you've already been watching us. My name is Che Britt. I'm joined by my boy Damon. We're the Winter
Yep.
Hill Warriors. And let's just start getting into this stream. We don't have anyone watching right now, but we'll probably have a good amount of replays. So let's start getting into it. We're gonna just break it down scene by scene, and we'll just roll from there. So we open up, and obviously we ended last episode with the captain and Bond going on this suicide mission all the way to basically Vietnam to try to retake their homeland. And obviously, it's not going to go well. But when they first arrive in Thailand, we see Claude there to greet everyone, and Claude knows this is a suicide mission, but he's not going to say anything. So that night, they kind of treat them to a really nice last resort type of party before they obviously go on this suicide mission. The entire time this is going on, we're cutting back into like interrogation scenes where the captain's obviously, this is present day, where the captain is describing to the commandant what's going on. Okay. Oh, endings are hard, aren't they? So then they have a little back and forth, the commandant and El Capitan, and then all of a sudden, uh, at least they have the back and forth, and the captain or the commandant is not too happy with like the way the captain's been storytelling. So the captain has basically spent the past year in solitary confinement, writing down what he's been, what he's been doing as a spy, essentially, and the captain goes into excruciating detail about little things like this going away party. I say going away because obviously it's suicide mission. So he speaks tongue in cheek, and he kind of goes into detail on these like random little events that the commandant doesn't really seem to be important. But as like they're kind of telling the story, right? Um, we kind of see what's been going on. So we kind of get like three scenes going down, right? We get like the present day where the captain's telling the commandant what's going on. He's reading his recount. We get what actually happened once they stormed the jungle, and then we actually get the night before. So let's just jump to obviously the actual celebration. This is they all go to like basically this like brothel, and everyone has a great time. And while this is happening, the captain's describing basically how that party went. We get cuts to the same individuals at that party, how they basically get destroyed by the VC. And obviously, an important thing to mention is that the captain worked. The captain actually leaked the general's plan. So this mission was like basically a 0% success chance before, but then after the captain has actually leaked the details of this mission, they're walking into certain death. But let me take a break there, Damon. Thoughts on that?
I love the way that this is all interspersed together and cut up all together. Some of the visuals that we get from them going into the jungle remind me a little bit of when they were shooting the Hamlet a few episodes back. You get some similar, I don't even know what kind of visual you want to call it, but it's like kind of facing back into them as they're marching through the jungle. Um, the way that it's cut in with the strip club, particularly, is interesting to me because they're framing it as like a last meal on death row. The fact that they're getting to enjoy this one last night. And there's a line once we get into the convo between the captain and Claude in general that I'm going to point out where it just highlights just how royally screwed they all are.
Yeah. And then before we resume, shout out to Omari Daniels. He's been watching us since we were kind of posting about Warrior. So he commented, "Hey guys, love your recaps on this and Warrior. Really dug the Sympathizer, but wish HBO marketed it a lot harder." Yeah, we'll have our thoughts on that, Damon, towards the end. But let's keep it going. So obviously Claude is there. He gives everyone cash to blow on women and stuff like that, and then he kind of has a sit down with the captain, and he lets the captain know that he actually knows that the captain is a spy for the North, and the reason why he knows is because they actually had um, they actually had Sonny's place like bugged. So in the previous episode, I'm trying to find. Okay, here it is. In the previous episode, when the captain killed Sonny, right before he killed him, he confessed that he was actually a spy for the North. All of these things, he killed the Major, all of this, and Sonny just didn't believe him. He didn't listen to him because he thought the captain was just trying to get him to admit that he's a communist. And the captain didn't realize that Claude and the CIA had Sonny's apartment bugged because they thought he was the one that they had to worry about, and he heard all of this. So he tells the captain, like, I know what the deal is, and I got you by the balls. And look, here's what we'll do. You're basically gonna have like you're gonna do whatever I tell you to do now. He doesn't kill the captain because the captain being half Vietnamese, being bilingual, there's a lot of value there. He could use the captain. So he tells the captain, "Look, I'm gonna pour something in your drink. This is gonna make you basically shit your brains out, puke everywhere for the next 48 hours. So you'll have plausible deniability not to go on this mission, and then afterwards we'll figure out what we're gonna do with you." But the captain actually refuses, and it's one of the only times that I think maybe one of the first times that he refuses Claude, and Claude's like, okay, fine, it's your funeral, you know, what does he say? Yeah, it's your funeral, pal, because now that he knows that the captain is a spy, he knows that the captain has most likely leaked the plans, and even without the leak, this plan is stupid anyways, so it's guaranteed death out there, and Claude's like, all right, if you don't want to, be my like pawn or my puppet, then you can go and walk towards your death. So as this conversation is going on, as Damon mentioned, we get like all these scenes cut between what actually happened when they went on the invasion the next day, and everyone but the captain and Bond got murked like pretty badly. They were just getting picked off left and right, and it's basically just the captain and Bond remaining because the captain turned down Claude's offer. So it's just the captain and Bond wants to go out in a blaze of glory, but the captain stops him and is just like, no, fuck that, we're surrendering. So they surrender, and then they get captured and sent to the re-education camp by the communists, which then brings us to present day, where the captain, where we've seen the captain basically writing his recounts and stuff like that. But yeah, Damon, thoughts on all of that before we actually go to present day.
That scene with Claude really highlighted the fact that that American influence doesn't have the shine it used to at the start of the Vietnam War. You see the dudes fanning out the money for the strippers, calling out, "Oh, this is like an American dollar," and the girls don't seem that interested. I think that is just kind of a precursor to what we see throughout that. Hilarious moment when the captain is asking Claude about the mission. He's like, "Yeah, like we're done, right?" And the Claude comes back with, "Well, nothing in the world has a 0% chance." Like that doesn't inspire a ton of confidence, dude. The scene feels like a true showdown when we have the tension between Claude and the captain, and also Bond with a standoff with the other dude across the strip club that they're at. So you have two things going down at once. To your point, man, like, yeah, this is the captain's moment to finally stand up for himself and what he believes he should do, and going back into his home country instead of like going on with whatever scheme Claude has. And we'll touch upon that later on too. I did appreciate one last maneuver from Claude though, with the basically he put like Epicac in the beer or whatever when he gives it to that douchebag who's trying to cause trouble, and then makes like the little like throat slit gesture with like the vomiting gesture too. We needed one little more funny slapstick moment from Claude beyond like the dogs that he keeps changing out and all that jazz. But that does feel like the last time we're going to see him.
Yeah, and I just pulled up that little scene here. So he gives the captain's drink to this just white dude who's causing some trouble. All right, so they get captured, brought to this glorious camp and undisclosed location, and so we actually it's not technically present day. We first see kind of what happens when the captain and Bond are first captured, and they are being interrogated by just some VC member. Oops, excuse me, and they want the member wants them to basically write down lessons and stuff like that, and like accounts, and Bond's just like, fuck that, I'm not doing that. And he stands up and basically challenges them and just gets the shit kicked out of him. Then we cut to present day where the captain included that account in his journal, and the commandant's not happy about that. He's like, remove this. You're making us seem like violent brutes. Remove this entire section. And the captain's just like, wait, I'm just telling you, what we actually did. And the commandant's like, yeah, whatever, I don't care. Remove that. So like everyone's a liar in this. Basically, everyone cares about how they look. But so let's just keep going. So obviously Bond gets the shit kicked out of him, and then um, let's see. Then we cut to like what happens after that, and so Bond obviously gets taken and thrown in solitary for a bit, and then this we see the captain. He's speaking to the commandant the first night that he's captured, and he's trying to tell the commandant, "Look, I'm working on your side. I've been a spy the entire time. I'm working for the North," and just gets shut down immediately. And the commandant's like, "It doesn't matter. Your comrade, if you claim was violent in our house, so you guys are gonna get punished no matter what." And all of what the captain is saying is he's trying to tell them the truth, but it doesn't matter. And then we see the commandant superior. What's his title, Damon? Do you know?
I believe it is the. Are we talking about the masked man?
The masked man, who obviously
Commissar.
commissar. Yeah, so he's the one in charge of this entire camp, and commissar pulls up and is tells the captain to stand up, all these things, and then basically tells the captain, "Look, maybe you are actually a spy, right?" So in front of the commandant, the commissar is like, "Maybe you are a spy. We're gonna have you like held in like solitary, and you're gonna write down everything that you've done as a spy, and be truthful, because what you think might help your cause, might necessarily be bad for you. So you don't know what we're gonna deem as like as good or bad. So just write the truth." And I'm just gonna take a pause there. Thoughts on that?
This is the gamble that the captain started off with. This is how the whole shtick that we see goes down. We find out later that it's a year in solitary. So like, holy shit, that's enough to make anybody go crazy, which then lends to the fact that we're not dealing with the captain as a reliable narrator in this sense, right? But this is what he bargained for when he opted away from Claude. Like the devil, sometimes they say the devil is the better than the devil that you don't know. Now he's finding it out the hard way, like what he has to do to be able to succeed. He was warned about this, remember, warned not to come back from the beginning from Mon, where it's like, what's going to happen when a mole has been in the dark for so long and then is put into the light. And that is a pretty big foreshadow to what happens later on here.
Yeah. Good points there. So like we cut to more present day stuff, and the captain, like you had said, Damon, he's been there for a year, and the commandant's just like, "Why don't you listen to what I say? You keep giving me all this attitude." And the captain's just like, "Fuck you, man, whatever." And so we see the egg being brought to the captain for breakfast. He just gets one hard boiled egg, and obviously he's got PTSD whenever he sees the egg because of the other VC soldier that killed himself when he was being interrogated with the hard boiled egg. So the captain sees it and is just like kind of like losing his mind a bit, but he has to eat it because there's nothing else there. Then we cut to a quick scene just with the commissar by himself, like injecting morphine. It seems like he suffered some serious injuries, and that's why he's all covered up. But just a quick scene there. And then now we cut to the rest of the re-education camp. They're having lunch, and the captain shows up for the first time in a year. So he's been in solitary for a year, and everyone who's looking at him, they're really impressed, and they honestly see him as a hero because they thought he was going to die in solitary for a year. So he immediately rejoins Bond, and just kind of talking some shit, and then it's time to be re-educated. So they have their daily re-education sessions, and the commissar is speaking from a raised platform, and just basically like quoting some lines, like some theory stuff like that, just on communism. And then Bond has just had enough, and he just talks back and is basically like, "You guys aren't shit, and you guys aren't for good," stuff like that. You guys are causing evil, all these things, right? And Bond obviously gets taken away, thrown to solitary again, and then the captain stands up and yells at the commissar. But this time, instead of just going at an angle of like, "Oh fuck you guys," the captain is more along the lines of like, "Hey, you actually misquoted a line. So your education and your grasp of the theory and just like politics in general and different views, like it's not as strong as you might think." And that actually causes it actually causes the commissar to bring the captain to him for basically like a one on one. So before I go into that one on one, thoughts on that?
Doesn't it make a ton of sense that Bond's version of rebelling would be like, hey, like, F you, like, you guys suck. The individual is also important in a collective, and basically just mic drop at that and get the shit beat out of him. Where, like, the captain's version of telling you to screw off is, I'm smarter than you. I know more about your theories than you do. And your own little revolutionary song has proven like false. Like, he's so condescending and like pretentious in his own little ways here. Love to see Bond standing tall. Bond stands tall almost every chance he gets, which you got to love about him as a character. He's probably my favorite character in the show, if I had to spell it out. Um, but yeah, that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, I do like Bond a lot. So as the captain is going to the commissar's office, he starts noticing some things, and he notices these albums, these American pop. That's what is that a Michael Jackson album?
I think one of them is Isley Brothers. I'm not
Oh,
sure
it's
about
that's
the
Isley
others.
Brothers art. Yeah, Jesus, I don't know shit, but uh,
Neither
now
do I.
these things are obviously gifts from the captain back in the day when he came back from America. So, or just gifts from Claude, stuff like that. But it's American stuff. It's American culture. So clearly, the commissar is Mon, and it's a twist that we could all see coming, but it is still fucked up when it happens. And the captain, both Mon and the captain know, like, all right, like we know who we both are. So ironically, his blood brother, his childhood friend, has been the one that's basically been overseeing his torture and interrogation in solitary for a year. So the captain's obviously pretty pissed off, and Mon kind of reveals a portion of his burned up face, and it's just brutal. And he basically tells what happened. And remember, Mon, before the fall of Saigon, his day job was that of a dentist. So he's just kind of performing dentistry, and then when the tanks were advancing the bridge, basically he caught friendly fire, right? So one of their like is that what happened? Was friendly fire?
So they hinted it's friendly fire. Then they talk about it that it was like a phantom that ends up dropping it, which I think is a U.S. plane. So either way, it was totally unnecessary.
Yeah. So it was either a U.S. plane that dropped the napalm, or it was friendly fire and accidentally like dropped it. And Bond just on the day of celebration, he ends up getting caught in a napalm wildfire, and it destroys his body, disfigures him horribly. He's in pain all the time. He can barely speak. So the captain has his psychological scars. Bond's got a lot of physical scars and psychological scars. And like you had said, Damien told the captain, "Hey, I told you not to come back." And now they have to interrogate the captain. So they throw the captain in an interrogation room, and they basically just keep him awake and just like keep shocking him. And the whole purpose is that they don't believe that he's telling them everything that happened in his account. And they insist that he's omitting things. And the captain's saying like, "This is all I remember. This is all I remember." And they're like, "Well, you're not. Well, that's not good enough. So we're gonna just torture you until like we're gonna force your body in your brain to remember." So the captain's just getting tortured this entire time. And when Mon is alone with him for a second, maybe he doesn't say it here, but he basically just says like, "Look, I am hard on you because if I wasn't hard on you, the commandant would be onto me." And then the one problem with communism is everyone's always afraid of being reported by someone else. So even though I'm kind of running the show here, I'm still beholden to the people working under me. And if I'm light on your punishment, then it's going to look bad for both of us. So I have to play the part, and I basically have to be a super mega asshole to you. And so the captain has his montages of like going through all these memories, and and there's going to be one particular memory that surfaces, but we also then see kind of Bond in solitary, and he's just singing to himself, like just being very, very defiant. And Mon, with his mask on, goes and pays Bond a visit, doesn't tell Bond anything about who he is, and then just kind of walks away. So let's stop there.
Even when reading the book, I love the twist that the commissar turns out to be Mon as well. The napalm accounting for the fact that he's not communicating as much and that he got flaky makes perfect sense. And they did a nice job in the show leaving the breadcrumbs to lead us to think like, oh, he's a bad guy. He's like betraying him in some way. When really like he does do what he can to help out the captain. He even warns the captain not to come back, but this is what happens as it is, right? Um, I think that there's some irony in this, right? The revolution started as like a something with a brilliant goal to make everything better, but there's still the carnage of war, and then there's the aftermath where Mon, aka a guy who's really stood up for the communist cause, can't even be fully trusted by those around him, like the commandant and all that kind of deal. So this ties back into what ends up happening to the captain, right? It reminds me a lot of Clockwork Orange, a classic movie and great book as well. This scene where this the main character's eyes are taped open, so he gets like this brainwashing essentially. Where here we get the electric shock therapy too, so a little bit of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest right at it. Sonny in the Major making some cameo appearances, which makes sense, like the symbolism of guilt there. And then we have like the ultimate, like this is what happens when a mole sees the light. Like this is the spy getting to see the light here. There is also more to talk about. Like there's always something more to confess. Like it's time for you to play your part. We then have the captain thrust back in the middle, trying to pretend to be something he's not, just to make those that are watching him happy or gratified at what he's doing.
Yeah, well said there. So we kind of just get a flurry of the captain's memories, and we see a memory of him as a kid, and he's blocked these memories out. But he has seen his father before, and through the flashback, we find out that his father was actually a priest who had raped his mother. So that's a lot of trauma that the captain has been burying the entire time in his mind, and we see that the priest who originally assaulted his mom is actually the one that looks like RDJ. So like it's like a trauma response where all like the captain's just kind of blended a lot of the white guys in his life, a lot of like father figure mentor types, and he's just giving them that face because that's technically his father. And we see that one of the times when he saw his dad offered him a French treat, and that's why he has such a visceral reaction when he sees them when Major Wan's mom offers them to him. So that kind of happens, and that's a memory that the captain has. And then, as like Damon just said, there's that he has that vision of Sonny and Major Wan, the ghosts that keep following him around, and then he has like this other like vision, just like hallucination, where it cuts back to the film that he had, and he sees a fully healthy Mon watching the movie that he had just worked on, The Hamlet, a few episodes prior. So like that's like a weird little hallucination he has, and then it leads to the Coca-Cola bottle, which then I think leads to the main memory that he's been blocking out this entire time, and it brings us back to episode 1, where they had first captured that woman Vietnamese spy who, like the captain, was also undercover, and she knew about the captain's spy status. But as she was getting tortured, she didn't say his name. I'm gonna pause here before we go into the actual memory that happens.
The flurry of hallucinations is always a really cool way to showcase what's going on in the protagonist's head, right? The Claude angle comes full circle. We get our final RDJ reveal. This sneaky priest who appeared to have been most likely raping his mother, and I think it's hinted that he's his dad due to the similarity. Um, I think it was mentioned the similarity to their eyes, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's his dad for sure.
So basically, throughout the captain's life, he's been strung along through these small favors, like the sweets that he was repulsed by in the present day, these privileges, etc., traded for his complicity in the schemes of all these white dudes who are messing shit up. who are all played by RDJ. So this is one like the all RDJ thing makes a ton of sense and really hits home here. His reaction to his mother's reenacted rape during the Hamlet makes total sense now why he would do that, because it was like a severely traumatic memory for him. Like you are tempted to think that it's mostly because he doesn't want to see anything happen to Lana, but then this just triples what impact that would have mentally, right? It also does make sense they focus on his eyes throughout the episode. Whenever you see the light hit them, they have like this. They're honestly crazy. I've never really seen eyes that look quite like that in color, but they're very striking when the light hits them. And it makes sense that they were brought up like that repeatedly. His independence has been bought every step of the way by dudes like this. And you do get the sense that you're in like a Christmas Carol where Scrooge is being showed around by all the ghosts when he's being led up there by Sonny and the Major. And then he sees a fully healed Mon. Um, the Hamlet shots look pretty rough now, especially what happens to John Cho's character. And then the memories that the captain had in America are hinted at with the Coke bottle and other things as well. I think the thing that jumped out to me when they're watching the Hamlet is when Mon's like, I mean, I actually kind of like Nikos. From an American perspective, this is a pretty progressive film, even though they kill Bond in like 10 different ways. But yeah, I do like the way they tied the Hamlet back into this, because that did feel like a bit of a one-off as far as things were written, but I liked how they landed it.
Yeah. It does. Yeah, it does bring me back to Christmas Carol. Also, fuck. Oh, the messed up memory. It kind of reminds me of Harry Potter 6 when
Oh,
when they need to get the memory from Slughorn and then he's tampered with it.
yes.
All right, so we then get to the actual memory. And remember, we never really knew what happened to this woman after in episode 1 when the captain was kind of recounting the tale. So she holds strong, doesn't drop the captain's name, and then we see the rest of the Southern Secret Police, including Major Juan. They walk up and they proceed to assault her sexually and torture her. And Claude has no problem watching this. I think the general at this point he's bored. He doesn't care. He has like some appointment or something, so he walks out. So he doesn't give a shit. And
Which is just as bad as what Claude did.
100%, 100%. And so as they like kind of hold her down, and the captain says that in his retelling that they shoved the Coke bottle in her mouth and just basically torture her that way, except that's not what actually happened. And we cut to the present day where we actually see her. She's somehow in this camp as well, that same spy, and she has written her own account. So both spies have gotten absolutely fucking screwed by the party that they're spying for. But in her account, she's told of what actually happens to her. And what actually happened is that they shoved the bottle, obviously, like, where, and, they raped her. And the captain has blocked that traumatic memory out of his head. Because obviously, as Damon has just mentioned earlier, he also has that relation, with his mom and seeing his mom be traumatized. So that's the memory that the captain has. Like, he's blocked it out, and he's also purposely like altered it to make him look not as bad, because he's just sitting there watching this, and he can't do anything about it because he'd give up his status. So if he had just watched her get tortured a bit, slapped around, and then had the bottle shoved in her mouth, that would be bad, but not as bad as what actually occurred. So the captain just doesn't, he wants to absolve himself of some guilt. And then afterwards he goes up to her and we find out that she never dropped the captain's name. So she just basically stood tall the entire time, did not break. And the captain's like, why didn't you in this camp and why didn't you say anything against me? And she was just basically like, well, I just wanted to hold the secret of you being a spy to the South, because I just felt like I felt like it would make my whole mission more purposeful. And she's basically like, I've never been the same since that day. So let's take a break there. Thoughts on that?
Totally checks out that we see this unreliable narration here, because this was not even close to what happened. Interesting comment from Mon when he basically introduces the girl as not as good of a writer, but a much better spy. And I think this is part of the issue with a lot of what the captain's been doing, is like the duplicity and like the creative liberties and all this stuff he's pumping into what he's telling you about and all these like fond memories, where her stack is much smaller and it's cut and dry and it's like, this is what I did, this is what I guarded. There's the exchange between them where they're talking about like, I wanted to believe the secret that I guarded, that you guarded, was like precious. Like the captain talking to her, like my identity was like really what you saved. Like, how do you feel about that now that you know how much of a piece of garbage I am? I thought it was really poignant when she just checks him back with, nothing can disappoint me now. Like, you're not even a factor in my life, man. They treat me like a prisoner after all I gave to them and all I took for them. And the revolution hasn't brought her anything but pain and torture after she was already put through pain and torture by the people opposing the revolution, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, you know, we'll talk more about what Mon says after this, but that was a moment that hits you hard and really like sits you down in a chair and like sobers you up as to what's going on here.
Yeah. Well said. Yeah, the captain is basically like you said, David. Just yeah, I'm actually a piece of shit, and you protected me this entire time. And yeah, people try to find meaning in whatever they can. And so then the captain has some alone time again with Mon, um, and Mon pours him a beer, and the captain remembers that the time like a little over a year ago where it was the last day before the fall of Saigon, and Bond beat up those three Marines, and Mon takes off his protective gear for the first time, and he first tells the captain to move because when he takes this off, he's very sensitive to the sun, and he has to sit in the spot where the room is the darkest in order to do this. So we see Mon's absolutely disfigured face. This was an emotional scene for me, man. Because Mon was he was a handsome dude, and now look at him, he's fucked. He looking like Lord fucking Voldemort, and this kind of really shocks the captain because this entire time he's been really pissed off at Mon, and that because obviously Mon contributed to him being in solitary for a year, but once he sees how mangled and mutilated Mon is, like it softens everything. So they have their drink. That drink must have hurt Mon to even put down. And Mon reveals he has the picture of the captain and Bond back when the general had his liquor store opening. And were times simpler back then. But Mon's been hiding it under his like little what'd you call it, like balaclava.
Yeah, like a kind of like a skiing balaclava, but like he's got like the
Balaclava.
it's like it's like a I don't it reminds me of like a mask from a horror movie
It's like a shiesty.
as well.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so like he still cares, and this has been very difficult for him. Um, so they're just kind of like having a conversation, and then that's when uh, Mon preaches a very very interesting question, like almost like a riddle to the captain, where they have a saying that goes, "Nothing is more precious than independence and freedom," and he gives the captain three chances to guess correctly. And at first, the captain guesses like, maybe it's love, maybe it's happiness, maybe it's money, and Mon's just like, no, 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 none of those things, none of those things. And then he guesses his family, and Mon's like, nope, nope. And also with this test, it's like if the captain guesses right within three tries, then he quote unquote graduates, which like implies that maybe he gets let go of the camp or he gets put in a better situation. So, anyways, the captain goes 0 for 2. He first guesses belief as his official first try, and Mon's like, "Get the fuck out of here." Then he guesses. I think he guesses family. Yep. And then Mon's like, "Nope, one last chance." And then he guesses the correct answer, which is nothing. So the answer to nothing is more precious than independence and freedom is actually just nothing. But it goes in so many different ways. So Damon, you could break this down for me, but yeah, thoughts on all of that?
Yeah, this is one of those like English class answers where you can pretty much come up with three correct ones as long as you back it up with the detail from the text. The captain, I guess it starts out with like Mon criticizing the captain's writing. Like it's almost as if you like you're speaking Vietnamese as a native English speaker. Like your ability to blend and adapt has basically terrified everybody here, and this is why we cannot trust you now. But the ironic part is that like we gave up a lot to get what, right? When he pulls out the liquor, he mentions like, we're in power now. We can fuck ourselves just fine. Like the new boss is just the same as the old boss. So for nothing to be more precious than independence and freedom, it's like look at where fighting for independence and freedom got you all. It's in the same spot as you were before. Someone else is just holding the gun now, right? The independence and freedom have basically been assigned a negative value to where they are because they're not any better off. Like if Mon would have known this is what this was going to lead to, would he have ever have fought for this cause? Pretty debatable, I would say. Look at where it landed the female spy. Like look where fighting for this cause landed her, and then Mon has nothing now for all of his sacrifice. Bon also has nothing now for all of his sacrifice on the other side of the issue. So it's like sometimes this fighting just creates more fighting and death and fighting and death. It's like a cyclical nature, right? There's like a cruel sacrifice that the captain and Bon have gone through in this camp. And the captain had to have that moment of sacrifice to be able to understand how nothing could have value in this situation, or how freedom and independence can be like a false hope or like a lure towards something far more dangerous, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and when the captain guesses correctly, Bond or Mon gets super emotional, and he's just like, "Man, I had to learn it the hard way, and you have to learn it the hard way if you truly want to learn." And he opens up his hand where they initially had that cut when they were younger, and they made that blood oath. And the captain's like, "Well, we can't see it anymore," and Mon's like, "No, it's still there, deep underneath." So he still has that pledge, to them, and so then we cut to Bond, and Bond's in solitary, just going crazy. He's got so many different ghosts talking to him because he's killed a lot of people. He's killed a lot of northern Vietnamese soldiers, and for he gets brought to he gets brought out of solitary to the commissar's office, and then the commissar this time is masked up, walks in and just chokes one of the like, chokes the guard to death, and takes off his mask, and it's actually the captain. And obviously, it's a very good cover because you just wouldn't be able to tell. And Bond's like, "What the fuck?" And they drag the other guard and chain him up. So I guess the other guard's not dead. He just gets choked to sleep. So they drag him, chain him up to the bed, and then Bond looks over and he sees Mon, who obviously you can't recognize Mon at this point. Mon's burned to a crisp, and he doesn't really know about the situation involving Mon. So this just looks like some random, VC soldier that had suffered some injuries, and that's what the captain says. Captain's like, "Yeah, that poor fuck got napalm the day the war ended. He's just a sorry dude." And we actually see Mon look up at them, and obviously now Bond puts on the uniform of the VC soldier, and the captain pretends to be Mon, and they basically just drive right out of the fucking camp. And we see as they're driving out, Mon is back on his feet watching them, and he looks pretty pleased. I'm gonna stop here before we get to the last, or actually, and as they're driving out, the captain's about to confess one more thing, and this is where he's probably gonna tell Bond that like, "Hey, me and Mon have been spies for the North this entire time." And Bond's just like, "I don't even want to fucking hear what you're gonna confess. Like, just fuck everything. This is all fucking so stupid." And Bond's basically had his moment where he's just like, "All of this shit is so dumb. We fought, like, basically everyone fought for nothing, and I just don't care anymore." And yeah, so before we get to that end scene, I have some questions. Like, it's implied that like Mon helped the captain escape, right? Like, it's how did
Yeah,
that go?
I think that in this version is a little bit different. Just to kind of tie it back to the captain and Bond, I like how the captain still tries to protect Bond's innocence. Like he doesn't even tell him that Mon is the one with the napalm face and like tried to like protect them, because I think he knows that Bond would either try to go back for Mon or like would like make a scene, or like it would hurt Bond to know about like the fact that they were both double crossing the South. So that to me was a funny moment that showed like their camaraderie and like the brotherhood they always used to share. So Mon does help them out. Long story short, in the book, I didn't like the book's ending quite as much in terms of like the payoff because in the book, it's Mon just bribes a bunch of dudes to get them to safety. Where in this one, with the whole mask switch, is like so much more theatrical. There's so much more scheming, and it raises the stakes for us, makes it better. Mon on this, I kind of took it when like he shows the hand, and it's like, are you ready to do one more thing? Like one more thing to help us out. Um, that's how I took it,
Ah,
anyways.
yeah, yeah, I do like that. I do like that. Yeah, back to the hand. I do like. Hold on. Yeah, I'm gonna pull up the hand. I think I like that interpretation. The do us basically one more solid, especially because with the way Mon gets up at the end, like clearly he could have just gotten up the entire time. But um, they basically drive to the beach, to the shores where there's like a boat waiting for them where they're gonna escape, and there's other refugees as well who've been hiding out and they're looking to escape. So they all kind of like go in this boat. And I heard that they end up like in the sequel they end up in France, but basically at this point it's just get out of Vietnam at all costs. And as they're on this boat, there's a baby that's crying. Side note, I've been dude, my last three flights, 3 for 3, fucking screaming babies just on the flights. Um, just screaming babies, 3 for 3, dude.
Is the worst.
3 for 3, 3 for 3, and so the baby's like going nuts. People are like, quiet the child, and it's like it's probably her, the boy's older sister, who's like she's like 5, holding him, so she doesn't know what to do. And Bond, takes the kid and starts singing this like song about peace, like an anti-war song, and it calms the baby down. And then the entire boat starts singing it, and that's it. So the captain looks back and sees the ghosts of all of the people in the South, this the secret police, like that all perished in that mission, looking back at him, and as they leave Vietnam. So very very emotional episode, very emotional ending. Thoughts on that ending scene?
Super emotional. You mentioned before, Chandler, how pointless this war turned out to be and how much needless death it caused. I think the finale did a great job reflecting that, and then including those fallen soldiers and all the casualties, like looking back on them, like still on the shore of like the homeland, connects back to the idea of like I'm all part of me is always like home, part of me is always in Vietnam because they mentioned that a lot heavily in the start of the season. I like that tie back in. Then you got the emotional soundtrack, and it tracks the future journey of like will be refugees. Despite everything, in the face of nothing, I'm still a revolutionary. Rewrite, relive, restart. Like to me, I took that as he finally stands for something. He's built up something that he is like willing to like attach himself to. Where in the entire book and in the entire show, he's just dancing around, not really. His goal is not to get caught. It's not really to like make a huge difference in like yeah, he's for the cause, but I think he kind of gets off on playing the middle ground a lot of the time throughout this. So I think he's finally found who he is and is it where he says we, like he's implying it's like him and like his double persona in some ways, I think. But like I like that he's picked a direction.
Yeah, agree with all of that. I guess like we'll spend the last few minutes kind of just discussing just like what Omari put in the chat, which is why didn't HBO market this harder? I'll give you my thoughts, Damon, on this.
Yeah.
HBO has been a fucking mess the last few years. That much is well known. They were blocking us from doing a lot of the clips from the Sympathizer, so we were trying to market the show. That's why if you're going through our live stream recaps and you're looking for episodes 2, 3, they're just blocked. They blocked the shit out of them, and we were just using GIFs at that time. So we were trying to give the show publicity, and they didn't want it, and that's why we've been running this live stream, basically just pulling up little screenshots and just still images from the show. But I think like bigger picture, like this show, I thought it was really well done. It was very quality. It was quirky. It was difficult to follow at times. I really do think you needed to read the book to understand the show. I didn't read the book, but I was fortunate where Damon read the book. So I would just literally be like, hey, I don't know what the fuck happened here. Damon, what happened? And Damon would just tell me. So this isn't a show that you can easily follow if you're not already coming with book knowledge. Like thoughts on that part, Damon?
Yeah, this is not a background watch show. Like sometimes you can get away with some background watches. If I was to rank some recent HBO shows, I would say Tokyo Vice is not a background watch, but it is more of a background watch than this. Does that make sense?
Yes, I would agree with that.
Where like you need to be paying great attention, but sometimes for this it's like you might even want to have like a bit of like a coffee buzz going, like when you're watching this to pick up on some of the nuances and things like that. I think to your point, Chen, like Zaslav has, I mean, he's not to get on like a soapbox or anything, but he's kind of ruining stuff with the NBA. He's ruined a lot of stuff in the DC universe and like the trajectory of that. Like, hopefully, James Gunn can fix that one up. It just seems like the guy is like prioritizing profits over art in a lot of ways. And when something like the Sympathizer, which is like, pretty damn good art, comes to the front, like it doesn't get marketed super well. Um, they should have like done something more like to put this out when they took over Warrior. They didn't even market Warrior for its final season that they were giving it that well, so then obviously it's not going to get the audience that you want. Tokyo Vice not marketed well, but a lot of like solid shows that just weren't pushed out, so you're just really relying on the breadwinners at this point, where it's your like House of Dragon, Last of Us when it comes back around. But I do think that this is like HBO is always going to have its niche because it's like they're the best at doing what they do. But there is kind of like the peak of Rome. I think has already gone past.
Yeah, the portion of time when we had Sopranos, The Wire, a lot of these shows, like there's just you can't even have those type of shows anymore because there's just no patience. Like those shows built out, pretty intricate storylines with the first four episodes being relatively boring. Like they had pretty boring first 3-4 episodes,
Yeah.
and then but what it does, it really like sets the world, and then you get massive payoff, and that's how you build a show that can go 4 or 5 seasons. And it's just like everyone is just chasing the instant profit now, and that's probably why like these quality like more niche shows like this doesn't have a huge audience obviously, but these type of more niche shows that are just pure art, like really quality, very have a lot of messages and meaning and stuff like that, they're just gonna get pushed to the background. So I mean, it's unfortunate, but we try to do our part. We make little like we like these. We obviously cover the big shows, but we also like little shows like these, and we just try to do our part by streaming them and just kind of discussing them. But yeah, like this is a hidden gem for sure. I was surprised at how many people I knew read the book. I'd never heard of the book in my life, but maybe that's just me. But yeah, but overall, I enjoyed the season. I thought like I thought some of the timeline stuff was a little bit confusing, but once again, if I didn't come from the book, so I didn't have that background, but just really thought it was like well shot. I love the cuts that they did. It was like very whimsical. We have discussed it having like aspects of Guy Ritchie, aspects of Quentin at times, like just little twists, and I just thought it was super well done. But Damon, what were your thoughts or final thoughts on the show in general?
I thought it was a pretty good adaptation. I think it's really hard to do satire in a miniseries format, and this is just about as well as you can do it. I know some people weren't totally happy with the directions it was taking and were a little confused at certain times, which is fair. I mean, everyone's going to have a different opinion on it, and that's all justified. But like, this is some of the best satire I've seen in a miniseries format. And like your point that you made a little while ago, like we don't really give shows the breathing room they need anymore. Like I think at most you might get one episode to develop, and then people are going to start hitting the snooze button because that's just the instant gratification that we've built up, which sucks in a lot of ways. But I would like to see more shows like this get a chance because I think it's better to try something ambitious and not attract a huge audience than it is to just put out cookie cutter stuff that people are going to forget about. This show is not forgettable. Like you got to give it
Yeah,
that. You know what I'm
absolutely.
saying?
All right, so just some housekeeping things. Obviously, we're done with this now. I just explained why. If you're looking for episodes 2 and 3, those just got blocked by HBO. But we have every other episode out if you guys want to watch them. And then we're rushing right now to finish our House of the Dragon season 1 recaps. We've put out 3 so far, but we have 7 more episodes to go, and we'll get them out before June 16th, which is when season 2 airs. So when June 16th comes, we're gonna be doing House of the Dragon season 2 with our like typical B-roll format where you're not gonna see our faces and it's just gonna be a lot of editing stuff like that. And then we're also gonna be covering The Boys season 4, and we'll be live streaming those similar to how we're live streaming these. So we're gonna try to give you guys 2 videos a week. But with that being said, any last thoughts, David? Any last words?
Honestly, we got a lot of exciting stuff ahead. It's been a lot. It's been a grind, but
Yeah, it's been a
I'm
grind.
excited. I'm excited for what's up in the pipeline.
Yeah, it has been a fucking grind for sure. But appreciate everyone who's been tuning in. We've had a handful of people just like always tune in, very interested in the show. So
Yeah.
I'll always appreciate that. But we will catch y'all later.
Later.
We had a nice little